Good morning. Thank you very much for joining ITESOFT webinar today. I'm just going to give it a couple more moments before we kick off. We are expecting a few more people to join us, so I'll give it another minute or so. Okay, so we don't overrun on the other end. I'm going to make a start. My name's John Stovold. I'm the Inside Sales Partner Manager here at ITESOFT, and I'm going to be running through this morning's webinar, looking at 5 of the key reasons to automate accounts payable. So before we begin, just like to have a quick look at the agenda, and it's going to be popping up now as we go. So, what are the 5 reasons? We'll start there. We'll move into a poll question. That should come up on the right-hand side of your screens, and it's always nice to get those completed. We're going to take some time to look at some of the common pitfalls that people go through when automating accounts payable. We're then going to go into the detail behind the 5 reasons, a look at what some of the latest technology can do in the marketplace, ITESOFT's overview, who we are, where we've come from, and some questions and answers and some next steps for yourselves. So if you've been following ITESOFT's blogs and LinkedIn posts, etc., you will probably have seen us talking about the 5 points, the 5 reasons over the last few weeks, those being saving time, saving money, reducing errors, increasing visibility, and approval on the move. We've highlighted these as key reasons to consider automation, or maybe it's to step up the quality of traditional automated process that you already have in place. So as a cost center, a source of disputes and the subject of numerous regulatory changes, things like duty to report, processing of supplier invoices, it's much more now than just an accounting problem. It's a key process within the business. It impacts not only on the company's competitiveness and its cash flow, but also on the image of the financial management with internal and external partners. So in an ever more digital world, there's no more room for time lost in seizures of invoices, uncontrolled delays, because you're circulating your invoices as pieces of paper, the subsequent lack of visibility that brings, or the many errors and cases of fraud that can be related to processes that are poorly mastered. So faced with any of these challenges, all of these challenges, digitalization of invoice processing becomes an essential lever in transformation of a business and can generate an enormous number of benefits. So before we move on fully, we're going to fire out the first of our poll questions for this webinar. So this should be showing up for you on the right-hand side of your screen. And what we're looking at is which of the 5 reasons that we've been talking about over the last few weeks and we're going to explore in this webinar are most important to yourselves. Saving time, saving money, reducing errors, increasing visibility, or approval on the move. So I'll give you a few moments to consider your answer. And once we've got all the answers in, we'll move on. How are we looking? We're getting there. Give you guys about another 30 seconds or so to have a think and select your answer for us. Okay, so votes are all in, and looking at this, there we go, a nice split between saving time and visibility, and 20% looking at reducing errors within the AP finance function. So nice to see that 3 of the 5 have been highlighted there from yourselves on this morning's webinar. As I say, we are going to explore each of these 5 points in more detail shortly. Before I go into that, though, what I'd like to do is just have a very quick look at just a couple of common pitfalls that a business or project team can face when they're trying to maybe implement a solution to digitalize the finance process. So bear in mind, some pitfalls can't be completely removed, things like budgets not being signed off. However, the vast majority of pitfalls can be avoided simply by ensuring that the project and process is clearly defined and, more importantly, probably clearly communicated around the business. So the first point that we're highlighting here is a failure to clearly identify your business needs. Why is it that you're looking to automate the accounts payable process? Is it about improving your relationships with your external suppliers? Is it about adding value to the accounting function? Maybe it is just about reducing costs and processing times. Maybe duty to report is impacting you there. Maybe it's around security and auditability. Another point that we would like to highlight here is also, and I've alluded to it already, it's a failure to engage with key stakeholders around the business. Involving upper management and board members from an early stage, from as early a stage as you can, letting them know what is trying to be achieved, creating a multidisciplined project team. And as I said a few moments ago, automation is no longer just the domain of accounts payable. This impacts procurement, it impacts management, etc., etc. And having people from across the board involved in the project, again from an early stage, is invaluable. And finally, outlining and evolving a communications plan. I'd like to say be practical, set realistic timeframes and realistic goals, and don't be afraid to be flexible in your approach. So to move on to the first of our 5 points, it's saving time. So it may sound obvious, but automated processes are faster than manual ones. The key, though, is that they get faster over time. Manual processes can often break down during peak times or due to a loss of core expertise. Automated processes aren't impacted by this. Despite this, many companies have had bad experiences with automation, and it does put people off making the transition. Few companies realise there's no reason to repeat the mistakes of the past. Several studies show that less than half of paper invoices, for instance, are settled at maturity. And this is predominantly because processes are too long, circulation of paper copies between various business services, and that directly leads to losses and errors. And even if it all goes well, the processing of a paper invoice requires between 10 and 15 days from receipt to completion, against less than 3 for a digitalized process. Often the main cause of friction between customers and suppliers, late payments, they can generate late penalties and have a significant indirect cost in terms of image. So mastering payment deadlines not only optimizes the cash flow for the company, but it can also help you gain benefit from reductions for early payments, for instance. So on the screen in front of you, what you can see is a couple of excerpts from a survey that ITESOFT conducted at the end of last year. This was pushed out to senior IT and finance professionals. In the responses we got back, 25% of these professionals stated that time savings were the #1 driver for them to automate their AP and finance processes, and 32% of the same sample stated that by utilizing automation tools, they had achieved their targeted time savings. And I'm just going to allude back to our poll a moment ago, where 40% of the answers said they were looking to save time. The second of the 5 key reasons that we've earmarked is saving money. So this is probably one of the biggest reasons that businesses are flocking towards automation, and it is its ability to significantly reduce business costs. So automation makes it easier to ensure that you're making the most efficient use of every resource you have got, whether that's helping optimize your accounts payable process or avoiding compliance fines. There's very few areas of the business that couldn't reduce their expenditure by automating. To highlight that, an invoice that's received in paper format is, on average, duplicated 5 times to allow different services to process the information. That's generating significant costs. Costs in pieces of paper, envelopes, stamps, ink and electricity for photocopying, scanning and printing. And that's before you even think about the amount of space that's needed for physical storage to keep all of the documents. Overall, the cost of processing an invoice in paper format is estimated at somewhere between £12 and £15 per document. If you digitalise the process and you digitalise the capture process, that price drops to less than £6 per document. So if we put that into realistic numbers, let's say as a business you're processing a volume of 30,000 supplier invoices over the course of a year. By using digitalization, by using capture engines, etc., a company can save more than £250,000 just on processing costs. That's before you take into account any of the other benefits that automation and digitalization brings. Once a process is digitalized, that cost reduction can be pushed so much further by automating as much as possible any other manual tasks within the accounts payable and finance process, whether that's reconciliation, billing, or invoice reading for validation. So again, we've highlighted a couple of results from the survey last year that we ran, during which 32% of the respondents claimed that the primary driver for themselves, considering automation, was cost savings, and 35% of the same sample stated that they had achieved cost saving of some level since they had started digitalizing elements of their AP processes. On to the third of our key reasons, and it's about reducing errors. And this did come up in the poll earlier, that there's some people on here that actually reduction of errors becomes quite an important element for them. So a common problem with manual processes is that they are frequently error prone. This is particularly true in finance departments, where often there's decades old spreadsheets and very often control issues that are reigning supreme. But they aren't the only problem. Incompatible legacy finance systems, inaccurate or even fraudulent documentation, and poorly managed supplier master data can cause errors that can impact on an entire organization. Faced with a poorly organized customer, it is not uncommon for a supplier to send the same invoice several times to be sure of being paid. Now, that may be that they send it in multiple times as a piece of paper. It may be that they send an email and a piece of paper and they upload it onto a portal. Manual invoice processing can then lead to double payments. You've received the invoice twice, nobody knows where they are, it gets processed through the system. The information against the supplier master file doesn't quite match, but your AP team know who this is, so they push it through. It also leads to cases of fraud that are very difficult to detect. Digitalization of the process makes it possible to trace all of the invoices that are received into the organization from the moment they are received. And then it's tracking every action that's carried out, and that feeds into a reliable audit trail. Analysis of the data and the transactions makes it possible to set up automatic alerts and controls in order to eliminate that error and the risk. And what you're seeing on the screen there is an excerpt from a recent survey that was compiled by PPN, and this was run last year, and they were looking at some of the most common keying errors. You can see there GL coding is by far and away outstripping anything else on that list. The interesting thing with the survey results themselves is they allude to the fact that the vast majority of businesses aren't even able to track where most of the errors are because they genuinely don't know. And that's another underlying problem when you're using a manual process into older legacy systems. Moving along onto visibility. So automation is not just about speed and efficiency. Automated systems will allow you to view your processes, your data, and usage statistics through a single interface. And this gives you a far broader view of how your business is performing operationally, and from a finance management perspective, empowers you to make more informed and accurate decisions. In the absence of a digitalized process, it is really difficult to have visibility on all of the invoices being processed through the organization. This visibility becomes essential for all stakeholders. So the finance department, they need the information in order to make closure of accounts more reliable and to estimate cash requirements rather than requiring a large repository of cash. Operationally, there's a need for dashboards to better manage budgets. Procurement would want to measure the purchase volume per vendor so that they can negotiate better, or maybe they can identify invoices from unreliable vendors. That one supplier of yours that always sends in an invoice and never ever quotes a purchase order on it, for instance. In addition, implementation of performance indicators improves performance of the process by analysing the number of disputed invoices, automatic reconciliation rate with orders, or payment periods per supplier. So again, in the 2017 survey that was run from PPN, they confirmed that the top 3 most time-consuming AP activities were monitoring analytics, master supplier file changes, and audit, all of which are as a result of poor visibility. Combining those with the top 3 operational difficulties, keeping track of invoices because there's no visibility, making payments on time because nobody knows where the invoices are, and maintaining the master supplier file. The final of the 5 reasons that we have earmarked is around approval on the move. And this is a slightly more unusual one and sits a little bit outside of what most businesses consider when they're looking at digitalization. However, it's becoming more and more important over the years. So in 2017, Regis Workplaces published a report following a whole load of research that they had done globally. And that report suggests that over 50% of workforces work remotely from their main office for at least 2.5 days per week. Now, in the UK, they did break it down by region. In the UK, that number was sitting closer to 40%. However, the National Office for Statistics is showing that that is year-on-year growth since they started tracking this back in about 2004. It is growing. So, automation delivers the ability to unchain your data and processes from the desktop and to put them in the cloud, from there into your pocket or your palm. It gives you freedom to view alerts, make decisions, maybe approve purchase order requests on the go for smoother and more efficient operations. For years, our clients have been making use of our solutions to further increase their productivity, even when working remotely. Network Rail, one of our clients, for instance, they've got 5,000 users across the UK who regularly access workflow processes whilst out on site. Now, as technology is improving, internet speeds constantly increasing, that's where we're starting to see some of this growth on people working remotely. However, the side of this that's generally not recognised is actually workforces looking for a better work-life balance. They want greater flexibility. So that needs to become a key business driver. It's not just about your relationship with your supplier and paying them more quickly or telling them if something's wrong more efficiently. It's going far deeper. It's looking at a company's ability to attract great talent and retain the best of their staff by being able to offer them the flexibility to carry out their roles efficiently and effectively without having to have them chained to the desk. So what is it that we're proposing to support our customers in addressing these 5 key areas? So before I go into the technology itself, what I'd like to do is just take a couple of minutes just to give you guys a quick insight into who ITESOFT are for those of you who don't know us too well yet. So on your screen now, you're seeing a few of the key numbers. ITESOFT, we've been around for over 30 years. Our solutions are used by more than 650 customers across 35 countries. The majority of those are in Europe, where we have about 80% market coverage. ITESOFT is present with boots on the ground in the UK, the US, Germany and Canada. The rest of the markets generally addressed using resellers and partners to push our products out. Our clients come from all sectors. It's irrelevant of industry. It can be financial services. It could be a social organisation. You can see just a few of our customers there on the screen. You've got the likes of PepsiCo, Network Rail, Belron Autoglass. We also work with NHS trusts. We work with local councils. That listing there shows there's multinational, international deployments of our solutions, and the solution is scalable down to SMEs with fewer than 100 employees. Finally, before I move on, ITESOFT's conviction is based on differentiation through innovation. As such, we invest heavily in R&D with a research and development department of nearly 80 people. Their mission is to develop the solutions that we're marketing, but beyond the development of these solutions, we also carry out more than 30 basic research projects in collaboration with European university laboratories, and the results of this research are regularly integrated into our solutions to try and bring more performance and value to our customers. So what did the research and the investment in our R&D team yield? Well, we've created a new generation solution which we've called STREAMLINE for Invoices. The system's been designed and built specifically to resolve various existing faults and restrictions that previous options have created. The screen that will be coming through to you in a moment highlights some of these problems. So the matrix on your screen represents the positioning of various capture strategies according to its benefits. The horizontal axis is representing the ease of making capture. For instance, the time and effort required to actually enter the data in the case of manual processing, or maybe it's configuring the automatic reading engines or correcting errors in the data when you start looking at automated solutions. The vertical axis is representing the result obtained in terms of data quality and processing time. So as you can see there, if you manually enter a large number of invoices, the investment of FTE is important. The quality of the data, though, is generally poor and processing times are long, so it's not scoring well. If you were using a more traditional on-premise OCR-based solution, sorry, one moment, processing times are shortened, data quality is better because the data is automatically controlled from various repositories. On the flip reverse of that, though, the technology itself requires significant investment, and more often than not is the need to train qualified personnel to adjust the reading engines, to monitor the automation rates, etc. For companies managing very large volumes of invoices, though, they can generate a very significant ROI and relatively quickly. Of course, over recent years, the cloud has been the buzzword. Everything's going to the cloud. Office has gone to the cloud. Oracle's going to the cloud. SAP's going to the cloud. Everybody is. And why are they doing it? It's making it easy to provide a solution for businesses of all sizes. And what it doesn't do is solve the reading rate problems. So with the cloud solution, reading rates generally are worse than with a traditional on-premise solution because there's far fewer tools available to tune the engines. Consequence of bad learning are often disastrous because it's very difficult to go back. If customers don't want to invest in high performance on-premise solution and qualified resources to operate it, another option, an alternative that we've seen over the last probably sort of 10 years or so, is in outsourcing the processes. However, in this case, a customer doesn't invest in technology or technical resource. It spends much more of their time correcting errors in data that's transmitted back from the outsourced provider. In addition, processing times are going to be much longer than with an automatic solution because the invoice has to be sent to the outsourced provider before they then start actioning it. They're then returning the data to yourselves, where it still has to go through a validation process before being put through into your finance package. So ITESOFT have developed CAAS, Capture as a Service, and what this solution does is it makes it possible to obtain very quickly high quality results without the effort of an on-premise solution because it's hosted, and it's a service that's managed by ourselves. So I believe we should be about to launch a second poll question. So what we'd like you to do now is to consider and then let us know which of the processes that we've just discussed there you have considered or have tried within your business. So again, it should be on the right hand side of your screen. You should have 5 options: an on-premise accounts payable automation solution, a cloud accounts payable automation solution, an outsourced service or BPO, a manual process, or maybe you've got a great IT team internally and they've built you something to use yourselves. So we will give you a few moments to have a look at that and to pop your results in. Okay, I'm going to give you guys about another 30 seconds before we carry on. I am conscious that we are running through our time quite quickly here. Okay, we're going to close the poll there, and what you should be seeing, well, 50% of you are up there with the latest in the cloud with AP automation, and we're seeing the split there between manual processes and in-house built solutions as well. Not uncommon in these sort of polls to see those sort of results, so thank you very much. What I would like to just drill into is a little bit more about CAAS, Capture as a Service. Okay, CAAS is a unique real-time invoice reading service that we're bringing to the marketplace, and we're the only business that is offering this. It's entirely operated by ourselves. The system itself is based on artificial intelligence technologies and a high-quality mutualized supplier repository which we maintain. So that's the supplier master data files. Thanks to this approach, our customers are able to benefit from automation rates that are literally unmatched until now. And these gains are what's very important. A simple improvement of the reading rate success going from 50% of invoices to 85% makes it possible to more than treble the number of invoices that any full-time equivalent clerk can process. Because it's as a service, you no longer need the technical skills to set up playback engines little hands to video code invoices, and as in the majority of cases, the invoices are fully automatically read and matched. So to obtain such performance, the supplier identification engine is not relying directly on a client providing a master data file, invariably of quite variable quality, but what it's looking at is a shared repository. So CAAS integrates a set of advanced processing rules, which are looking at maintaining the quality of the data of the shared directory. Once a supplier has been identified from this, fuzzy logic algorithms are then used to link the client repository in order to retrieve the ERP code that you have internally. Automatic matching rate between an identified vendor and ERP code is then continually monitored for quality purposes. If matching rates aren't satisfactory, our expert teams will be on hand recommending specific actions. Maybe this is adding a piece of data into the supplier repository in order to maximize the automation. Performance of data extraction engines is also constantly monitored by our experts. And if necessary, they can immediately implement a necessary action to optimize the extraction of data. With its highly innovative and disruptive approach, which is unique in the market, CAAS makes it possible to automate the reading of invoices with levels of performance so that it's no longer necessary to provide an intermediate data correction step. Given a low read error rate, there's also no longer a need to support or outsource to a BPO a data correction step either. The performance of the engines, as I've said, they're measured in real time by our teams who are performing the necessary optimizations in case of any performance degradation. On your screen on the right, the bottom right, the detail is a little small, unfortunately, but it's a screen grab from the engine itself. And this is a live screen grab from one of our customers. And what we can see there, I think you might have to squint just a little bit, is that one of the customers, when we pulled this screen grab, was obtaining 91.76% field level accuracy on incoming invoices. This customer was processing about 46,000 documents, but these are the samples from that customer, live reports showing how many are able to go through and not require a touch. We alluded to this earlier, but digitalization is generating a huge amount of raw data, and that information is obviously very, very important to various parts of a business. But raw data that can't be analyzed is useless to everybody. So if you want to manage the process of supplier invoices, etc., actually being able to see what's going on becomes key. Whether you're looking at monitoring payment deadlines, maybe you're looking to see the number of invoices waiting for validation, maybe it's the number of invoices per supplier. Users want to be able to navigate very easily and in a very graphic and interactive dashboard what's going on. The functions required to automate a process are often emphasized. The effectiveness of the process, however, is often only visible through indicators and dashboards. And although most organizations have made use of business intelligence tools for many years, implementation of such tools is no longer adapted to meet the need to quickly create or adapt new visualizations or KPIs or dashboards. And this is especially true when we look at the process of handling supplier invoices. So the STREAMLINE for Invoices solution that we offer integrates a full analytics tool. It's a true DATAVIZ or data visualization tool of the latest generation and can quickly and easily deploy performance indicators to all concerned users. Analytics use of associative engine indexes every possible relationship within your data so you can immediately get information and explore in all directions where your intuition is leading you, rather than giving you a predefined preset of dashboards that don't necessarily allow you to flip between the steps of the invoice in the way that you would like to do so. So unlike traditional query-based BI tools, this isn't using aggregated data and it's not using predefined queries, which are where the stops often come in. It means that you can ask new questions and create analysis without having to propose new queries or even wait for the availability of IT experts. So thank you all very much for joining us. Just going to spend a few moments. If you've thought of any questions and you haven't yet asked them, please feel free to post them on the right of your screen. We will try and get through what we can. It does look like we've had a couple put through. Okay. No, for some reason, the questions polling box doesn't appear to be working particularly well. I'm just going to give it a couple of moments. Okay, so we have got some bits coming through. Somebody asking here, do you have a supplier capability for self-service? Yes, we do. A supplier portal is part of the suite of solutions that ITESOFT offers around supplier management. The supplier portal will allow your customers to upload a PDF version of an invoice. They could manually input key information from an invoice. They can chat in real time with your AP clerks if you so wish to do so, saving a bit more time by not having them on the phone. They can leave messages, etc., looking for updates on when an invoice may be due. You can open it out a little bit further than that as well. You can give some visibility to them about current status of an invoice. For instance, you might want to let them see when an invoice has been received and when it's gone through the first steps of process. You might want to tell them that it's out for approval in the business, or maybe you would want to tell them that it's pending final payment with a payment date on it. And those sort of rules are built based on what your business is willing to share back out again. It's one element of the suite. Supplier portals have been around for a long time. The uptake on them has been patchy at best. Again, we alluded to the speed at which technology is improving, how fast broadband speeds are getting now, how much connectivity you've got anywhere you go now to the web using things like 4G. Subsequently, things like supplier portals become more interesting to smaller organizations. They don't have to type an invoice, print it out, put it in the post, stick a stamp on it, etc., etc. They can go on and upload it. Okay, is the system hosted? The solution STREAMLINE is a flexible platform. It can be hosted using the Microsoft Azure servers. It could be installed as an on-premise solution, or it can be utilized as a hybrid solution as well, giving yourselves some control internally around the workflow tools, but also then allowing you to make use of the CAAS engine, which is cloud-based, for the improved match rates. So it's a highly flexible solution. I think that looks like about what is coming through on here for me at the moment. If you do think of any further questions, please do feel free to email those over to myself. My email address is on the screen in front of you now. Alternatively, if you've been speaking to one of my colleagues here already and you've got their email address saved, fire the questions over to them. I'd like to thank you all for your time, and we look forward to seeing you again on a future webinar.